Hello and a very warm welcome to LinkedIn Talent and Talks, an exclusive thought leadership series brought to you by the Economic Times in collaboration with LinkedIn. I'm Himanshi Tiwari, and the world of work is evolving at an unprecedented pace. Technology, automation, and shifting workforce expectations have completely transformed the way organizations attract, retain, and develop talent. Now, as businesses navigate this transformation, the conversation has moved beyond job roles to skills, agility, and adaptability. Today, talent is not just a function, it is a strategic business imperative, a competitive differentiator, and a catalyst for growth. To explore these evolving dynamics, we are joined in by two distinguished leaders shaping the future of talent. Please join me in welcoming Sirisha Voruganti, CEO and MD, Lloyds Technology Center, and Santosh D'Souza, Director, Sales, Talent, and Learning Solutions at LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining us.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Now, we'll move on to our discussion. For that, Santosh, you can please take over.
Perfect. Thank you, Himanshi, and thank you to Economic Times for sort of setting this up. Firstly, I'd like to welcome Shirisha as well. It's an honor and pleasure sort of having this interaction with you. So, Shirisha, let's get started, right? As a leader, you're the managing director of Lloyds Technology Center. Right. The question I have for you is, how do you define and interpret the concept of talent mindset at Lloyds Technology Center? And what are some of the key strategies you've implemented to instill this mindset within your leadership team to drive innovation and to maintain a competitive edge in this very competitive market?
Well, I think, for all of us, whether it is for LinkedIn, Economic Times, or for banks, it's really about customers, right? Understanding the pulse of customers and trying to provide solutions to customers that can be consumed by them, and they really appreciate and enjoy what we have. That's there for all of the sectors that we are in at this point in time, and no different for banking. And to be ahead, and you really need to be ahead of the game, right, for all of us. And so it's important for people that we bring in who are able to create those experiences and whatever, which means the latest and greatest technologies are what we want people to know and have, whether it is, cloud, Gen AI today, or, things like all the modern engineering practices that we talk about and all else, right? So those to me are really, really important. And I don't say universities and colleges are need to create these superhumans. Of course, we're conversing with them. And of course, the industry is always talking to the universities to say, these are areas that we really want people to them to include in their curricula as they kind of, bring students out of schools. But it's on us as well, the industry, to really ensure we are, having the right training programs as we bring people in to train some of these, the engineers, but to have these skill sets that we're looking at, them to have. So things like data science is also extremely important for all of us now, as how would you understand the pulse of the customer otherwise? So a lot of these skills are what are required. And so it has to be, I think, both of us coming together, both the industry as well as the academia coming together to create people that have the skill and talent so that the industry is able to absorb them. And Lloyds is really no different. And you spoke about innovation, right? And that's always going to be front and center of everything that we create. And I think in India too, right? If you go to a school or a college here and present about your firm and want these guys to come in and join you, I think there's some amazing questions that come in from students. They want to understand how many patents you have, what's the sort of engineering excellence that you bring to the table or you've been nurturing within the firm, what sort of research are you doing? It's not fundamental research, but of course applied research that some of the companies are involved in. They really want to know if you're working on some of the latest technologies, like whether it could be blockchain, it could be things like digital identity because they're a bank, it could be something else. So they're very, very, in terms of, they really want to pick and choose the places that they want to come to, and they want to ensure, they also want to be very aware of whether the companies that they're looking at are investing into all of these areas. And so, as we bring people in, that's something that we tell them. And inside the company, we do have these places that we create, these sandbox environments where people can actually experiment and look at newer ways of doing things. And it doesn't always have to be the next shining thing that you go after. It could be little things that we improve. It could be a small process improvement. It could be automation of something. It could be some access control that we've probably automated, and things like that, right? So, a lot of that is constantly happening. And ultimately, again, for whichever the industry, you're always looking at how can I move faster and how can I create solutions faster to the market and how can I provide them at a much cheaper rate to customers, right? Typically, when the cost per transaction for a customer goes down, that's when I really believe I've innovated and, given that back to customers where they're able to probably save a little on that cost per transaction, but at the same time are getting a lot more services. In this fast changing world, and there's so much of innovation that's happening at the end points, right, where at the consumer levels, and not necessarily from large entities like ourselves, but you have the Revoluts and the Monzos, which are really providing those experiences. We constantly need to be on our feet in terms of trying to say, what else can we do? Can we do this better? And can we improve on another experience that we have? So that's the world that we're in. And so when, and we are really encouraging a lot of that within our firm, of course.
Yeah, thank you, Shrisha. I think what I liked is you're keeping this customer at the center of everything you do, right? And obviously, talent does play a great role. And one of the reasons, obviously, this GCC has been set up to drive innovation, which I know you and your team have been doing fairly well. And really well, in fact. I liked one part, which is for me, your takeaway is how do you improve every day, right? As they say, if you improve 1% every day, it goes a long way in terms of personal improvement as well as professional improvement as well. So great takeaways. Thank you for that. Let me come to the next question with respect to attracting talent, right? Lloyds Technology Center is a strategic hub for Lloyds banking group, and you are attracting top tech as well as engineering talent as you embark your digital transformation initiatives in your organization. I do know when you joined maybe 3 years back, and I still think the numbers are very high in terms of the talent you need to hire. I'm sure that keeps you and your HR team awake at night as well. What's the role do you think, Shirisha? And I know you're a person who loves numbers. What's the role does data and analytics play in addressing some of these skill gaps or identifying opportunities to attract some of these top talent within India? I know you spoke about some of the skills with respect to cloud, AI, etc. How do you attract these people?
Well, I think firstly, it's really about understanding where we are on the graph and what our white spaces really are, right, as a firm. And then going to market with saying these are skills that we actually require. But for all of that, I think the market requires a story, and requires a story which is really attracting engineering talent, which is answering some of the questions that they have, right? And saying it's not enough to say we're working on cloud engineering or we're working on data and things like that. It's really about what are the problems of that all these areas that you're trying to work on solving at the end of the day, and what's in it for me if I have to come and join you, right? Because everybody is trying to ensure they strengthen their resume through the process. And so it's really about are we helping people with that process? Are we helping them giving them challenging problems to solve? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if I look at data, for instance, which is huge in, for all of us, because you are getting client data constantly. You want to probably provide not just insights for customers, you also want to do some sort of predictive analytics where you predict what the customer wants next and you're able to provide them those solutions. You also, as a bank, have a vested, as an entity that's selling some of these services, has a vested interest that you want to cross-sell and upsell to the community. So for all of that, I mean, we use data substantially. So it's really important for us to go talk about the story around data. And that's what attracts people, saying, okay, this is a problem that I can solve for. Predictive analytics in the financial world is a problem that I want to work on. Real-time analytics is probably an area that I want to work on. Or creating an entire data mesh architecture is something that's, really something I want to do, and I want to come and be associated with this firm and want to work on this. And the same with, it could be on payments, right? It could be any real-time payments problems that somebody is looking at solving. Somebody is looking at solving for, say, digital identity, as I said. It's a big thing across the world. And, can we do that better? And there are always ways of doing it better, right? You want to probably do the two-factor authentication. You'd say one, I'd do it with a password, and the second with this OTP. And it could get to a next level where you want to do it with facial biometric, you want to do it with voice biometric. It can go on and on. So, innovation is there in every domain that we're looking at. But when we, go and try to look for talent, it's really about, are we able to talk through these stories that we have and really talk about, what's there on the roadmap in each of the areas. Otherwise, I don't think people get sold into the story that we have, right? I mean, if it's just saying, okay, I do two-factor authentication, I mean, why would somebody just want to come and join us unless you talk about all the nuances that are there in each of the area, which is really saying, okay, I can improve my skills in a certain domain, and there is a certain problem that I'd love to solve for, and maybe this is the opportunity for me to do that. The same thing for multi-cloud environments. I mean, we still struggle with, are we able to move data across multi-clouds, multiple clouds, right? Whether it is GCP, Azure, AWS, and so on, because, let's accept it, no matter which one cloud provider we are with today, in future, at some point, it's probably going to be all of them coming together. The same for fraud analytics, right? I mean, fraud and risk, because, that's a huge problem to solve, and it's an ever-evolving one, because if you're using technology for improving your countermeasures, there's somebody else that's actually improving their technologies as well to hit your network and to kind of, scam it and see what they can do with fraud on your network and so on. So these are, ever evolving problems. And to me, engineers today are really, I think, interested in looking at solving the more difficult problems, really. And that's the story that we go to schools with. As I said, again, it's not just the onus is not just on the academia or on somebody else. It's really for us to work together on some of these skills, right? And we jointly look at investing in them. As people come into us, the framework that the cloud provider that we have gone with is GCP. Let's accept it. There's not too much GCP adoption in this part of the world at this point in time. It's still evolving. And so we've said, let's train people and let's certify people, for on GCP, and then, bring them into the workforce and actually use that skill as we develop further. So there are little things that we'll have to do as well. You don't get ready-made skill, talent available in the market always. And so we are willing to make those investments constantly and see how we move the needle.
Yeah, no, those are great points as well. I think I like the fact that you just talked about stories across each of your functional areas, and what, because stories is what sells, right? Is to your, to your talent pool who want to join your organization. I also love the fact that you spoke about challenging work. LinkedIn data shows one of the reasons why people join a company, in fact, among the top 3 reasons, challenging work is one of the reasons. right?
Absolutely.
So if you're giving them challenging work and there's purpose in what they do, there's high likelihood that they'll join your organization. So great point.
Absolutely. And we hype up a lot around compensation, but compensation is never the first factor for somebody
Exactly.
to come into a firm. It's
Yeah.
probably two or three on that list.
Yes, yes. See, compensation it will is something you can never solve for also, right? I always say because yeah, yeah. Uh, that's human greed at the end of the day. But yeah, I think my next question sort of overlaps to some of the things which you mentioned, right? In this increasingly competitive talent marketplace which we are in, especially in India, right? How is Lloyd Technology Center positioned itself as an employer of choice? And I ask you this also because in my role, I meet a lot of global GCC leaders, um, and some of the things which they do globally, they are like, should I replicate it in India? Should I customize it for our talent pool here? So, what would love to understand what are some of the initiatives you and your team have undertaken to strengthen your employee value proposition with respect to obviously Lloyd's Technology Center, right? Are there some things that you've done differently to what Lloyd's Banking Group does in your headquarters? And how do you amplify your leadership visibility, that is you and your C-suite, on digital and social platforms to showcase uh, the true purpose and the innovation which you just spoke out, which you're doing?
Yeah, so one thing I've learned in the last couple of years is you can't parachute too much from any part of the world into India. Everything has
Exactly.
to be, has to have a local flavor, especially for our market, is how I see it. But that said, there are a couple of things that the bank has been doing really well and which we've adopted. One of them is called Reboot, which is a large innovation, a hackathon that's run across most of our Lloyds Group centers in the UK and other locations that we're in. So we run a week-long innovation week in India as well, where we say, we bring in industry experts. We'd love them to talk about areas of technology that they're working on and share learning. So, we have those invited talks for a couple of days. We also have a lot of demonstrations of solutions that are created in this market. So we do call whether it's the startups or some of our own partners like the Googles and the Microsofts and, all of them here to really show the Pegas and of the world to come and showcase what's the latest and greatest in their world. And at the same time, we have demos that our teams also set up so that, the rest in the organization get to see what other groups are actually doing, because everybody's working in their own silos and it's very, you never know what's happening, just across in another group. So we try and ensure there's a lot of that cross learning. And we spend 2 days on hackathons, which could be, people can come up. There are multiple themes, of course, for the hackathon. And so we do have one which is purely on innovation, something new that people can think. Otherwise, it could be, small additions to existing solutions that the bank has. So that's one thing that we do. And I think that's really, really important for us as an organization to spend that time and invest that time on the people that we have. Right. We also actually, as far as, the market itself is concerned and making ourselves more visible, we've been part of a number of industry forums in India. And, we do provide visibility to a lot of our guys where, they're going and talking about areas of technology that that we are doing within Lloyds. So I think, again, industry forums are a great way to share experiences, really understand what's happening in other parts of the industry as well, and to learn from them. So there's a lot of cross-learning, but at the same time, it's giving us enough, visibility, in those forums across the board.
The other aspect was how are you showcasing your leaders as well on digital and social platforms, right? Because your leaders are your biggest brand ambassadors in a way to attract talent. So yeah, that was.
Yeah, and so what we've done in India from an EVP standpoint, we're also a great place to work. So we went through that certification recently. And again, that's important to us because anybody that's joining firms these days constantly look at some of this the ratings that companies have, or what the companies are trying to do for people. And I think that's becoming important. We are a big, we have a big push around diversity. And when I say diversity, it's not just about gender and women, but we're looking, at diversity more holistically. Of course, we have people that we're looking at, people that have retired from, say, armed forces. We're looking at people with disabilities and so on. The LGBTQ is something that we're definitely encouraging. We're also doing something for returning mothers who've taken a break from careers, right? We're trying to see if we can get them back into the workforce as well. And so I think some of these initiatives do gel well with people, because we are genuinely making an attempt to see how we can expand the scope of services that we are offering, and how we can bring a lot more people into the workforce. And if you look at our numbers, I think just on diversity, we are at about 37% on diversity within the organization. And I think that's definitely an industry high. I don't see too many industries, at least in this country, that have that level of diversity. So yeah, we're trying to do all in our capacity to see, what we can do to really help people. And it's not just for an employee value proposition, but it's really saying, can we genuinely help? Now, in this industry, it's also a very high, highly stressful industry, like all of us know. People are working on new areas, they're working against timelines, they're working on a lot of pressure from all fronts. So employee well-being is another aspect that we, take care of. So we do have a program of employee well-being that if it can be an opt-in for people. If somebody wants a mentor, they can have a mentor. And if they have any other, mental health issues, they can actually, talk to people about those issues. And that's a safe space for individuals. So it's not going to harm anybody in their careers as they go through any of those conversations. So we're trying to look at all of those aspects, right? So it's not just about work and what they do on work, but we're trying to see how we can provide everything else. We do have a lot of working mothers, and so of course there are government mandates in terms of daycare and things like that, but we do ensure, we also support that substantially, so that they're able to send them to some of the best daycare centers that are there, in and around our facility, so that mothers can be, can feel that their children are safe, and at least during the, 8 to 9 hours of work time, they're able to, be fully invested into their work. There's also transportation and, all those little things that matter these days for people. And if you can remove a little bit of toil from people's lives, I think, say, you don't, there's food and there is transport, and some of those things are absolutely taken care of. I think it just helps people in their, in their overall, in their life, right? So we're trying to do all of those to the best of our abilities. But as you said, I mean, you talked about that for compensation. Maybe that list is, because of the pressures of modern day, there's just such a long list that all of us have. But we try and do whatever best we can, and are constantly looking for feedback on anything else that we can improve. As far as the workspace itself, I think we've tried to create a workspace which is really healthy. There are enough of places where there are breakout rooms that people can go to. There's, discussion rooms and a lot of things that if they need to have a brainstorming session, they can, quickly huddle up and do those. And we try to create a very vibrant workspace. So the average age of our employees is about 27. So the expectations are very different in terms of how the workspace should look like, including, naming of conference rooms and things like that. We try to keep it as vibrant as we can. But as I said, some of these are ever evolving and are, constantly soliciting feedback to see what we can do. We also have things, we have a room for, say, returning mothers. We also have a place for worship and things like that, because some of these are becoming more and more of requirements. People don't want to go into another place. So there's just no time, really, I mean, in
No,
fast-paced world.
Yeah. No, I think very good points, Shirisha. I think if I have to just sum it up, I think you're creating a very inclusive environment here in India for all, like you mentioned, returning mothers, people with disabilities, LGBTQ, people retired from work, from armed forces, etc. So creating, and also, a lot of things which you just spoke about creates a sense of belonging as well, right? They feel there's purpose in this organization and why they're working. Today, what we see at LinkedIn, there's a huge supply-demand mismatch. Uh, Demand for some of the skills which you mentioned, this is a lot versus the supply which is available, right? So in the context of AI and the rapid digital transformation, how is Lloyd's Technology Center fostering a culture of continuous learning and upskilling across your workforce? And especially, how are you addressing the needs of the multi-generational workforce to ensure that they are better equipped to be future ready?
Oh yeah, yeah. So absolutely, we spend a lot of time on on learning and actually improving the learning journeys constantly. But if for some of the areas which are absolutely new skill areas that are required by us, it could be AI, it could be the cloud skills and so on. We run training programs within the organization. We actually certify people to be cloud ready and then put them into the workplace. So that's something that we are constantly doing. Apart from that, of course, we are a bank, so there's an expectation of a lot of mandatory trainings and a set of other trainings that we push in so that you understand the nuances of working in a very secure sort of environment. There are, of course, always issues of sharing data, for instance, and a ton of things, right? So all of those are something that we take care of. We do have a program when people are coming into the company where many of these guardrails are set. But as I said, and that's a journey. They just come into the journey. We kind of give them a brief overview of everything that's happening. But any particular skill over and above what you come with, and we believe you have the right aptitude, we're willing to invest in the candidates to learn those skills. And in each of them, and the biggest that we've invested in, as I said, is cloud and and AI at this point in time. But that again is constantly evolving. There is Pega, where we have a large team that's working on Pega. We're collaborating with the Pega University. We actually have tie-ups with some of the local universities. We've tied up with Triple IT, Hyderabad. We've tied up with IIT Chennai. We've tied up with the Mahindra University and so on. So that's again an evolving thing in terms of curricula that we're trying to design. We're doing short-term courses for some of our engineers. We've sent a few of them for the senior leaders to the Indian School of Business, to the Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore and other places. So we're constantly looking at, as I said, those white spaces that we have and see what we need to invest in and how we can invest in to improve the workforce that we have, and make them future ready. Because if you're not, then I think you've just lost out on business.
I completely agree. And if you're not future ready, you're going to be always second best. And I'm sure that's not what, Lloyd's Technology Center aspires to be, right?
Absolutely.
But thank you, Shirisha. This was a really engaging conversation, great takeaways for our listeners, right? Especially in today's world where there are so many GCCs coming into India. India is the place for talent. And I know most CEOs, if you ask them what's their number one priority, they'll always say talent is our number one priority. So it's not surprising to hear some of the things which you've said about what you're doing or the innovation you're doing in India with respect to talent, with respect to addressing customer needs. I'm sure this will go a long way in setting up Lloyd's Technology Center for success in the future. Thank you very much
you
for
so
this
much,
conversation.
Santosh. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Santosh and Sarisha. It was really an interesting conversation, although I wasn't speaking, but I was really enjoying the conversation you two were having. On that note, I've learned that if talent is the currency of the future, then the organizations that invest in it wisely will, of course, lead the way. So today's conversation made one thing very crystal clear, like building a future ready workforce isn't just about filling roles, it is also about fostering skills, agility, and innovation. So Suresha and Santosh have given us a masterclass on how talent strategy can be a game changer in the digital era. And as we sign off, there's something to think about. What's one skill you are developing today that will shape your tomorrow? Let that question drive your next career move. And thank you for tuning into the LinkedIn Talent and Talks. Stay curious, stay ambitious, and we'll see you in the next episode.